So I'm here today with Professor Partha Kar. Partha, welcome. Partha is a professor in diabetes, but he's also the NHS England Speciality Advisor for Diabetes, and he also worked closely on the digital campaigns there. Partha, I'm really interested to know, everything's changed in the world in the last year, as we know, and it's been very difficult for everybody, but I'm really interested to know how things have changed in the way that pharmaceutical companies interact with you, and what's been good and what's been bad during that period.
So first of all, thanks very much for the invite. I think it's been an interesting year, and I think it's fair to say a lot of people have been caught a bit on the hop as regards their planning, and nobody could have forecast we would be here, 15 months later, still talking about how do we sort of get back to normalcy. And what you've seen with the pharmaceutical companies, the first, I would say the 6-8 months, I think it was more about what do we do now? We have just stopped everything. We can't go in and see everybody. And in our world, we had examples whereby industry would actually come out and say, what can we do to help? Because we got people sitting at home. What do we do now? What then that evolved into the industry getting back into normalcy, and I put that in strong inverted commas because the normalcy wasn't the usual way, and a lot of effort has been made to switch into digital means of trying to get in touch with you. So you get emails, you get online programs, you get sort of sponsored events, but they're more online. So they've got a very different feel to it as they have gone along. I mean, whether the good and the bad is difficult to say, but I think there's been a swing from one extreme to another. I mean, that's right. The feeling that I get. And I think we need to be careful as to where we are going, because it's all very well to say it's a new world and we should all become digital. But from my experience in working in digital, it's not for everybody. You need to have a blended approach, as we are doing in healthcare. So I give the example of education. We have a mixed approach. You keep your face-to-face, but you also have the digital approach. And as things normalize, you'll have some people who will prefer one over the other. And I don't think the industry interaction with healthcare professionals should be any different because there's a saturation point as to how much digital stuff you can get in a day and how much you would like to be part of that process. So yeah, I think mixed picture along the way. But as I said at the very beginning, lots of people are feeling the way around it. So that's been the interesting bit.
That's really, really interesting. So you're seeing a lot more digital engagement, a lot more email traffic, but it sounds like you still feel there is a need or a yearning from some people to have that human connection. And do you feel that connection in the future will be more remote engagement? And how do you feel about on-screen engagement with people?
So I personally am a very social person. And I think if you take one step back and take it away from the interaction between the pharmaceutical industry and healthcare professionals, think of our own lives. One of the big things we're all hankering for is the social aspect. You can go out and meet your friends and sit down and have a drink and etc. And if you translocate that back into normal work, it's not any different, right? We're seeing the same people around us who we can work with, nobody else. So I think even people forget that the relationship between industry and healthcare professionals is not simply transactional. Right? You create friends along the way, you create relations along the way. And sometimes I think with that sort of thing in mind, just being digital is not quite the way. You lose that contact. And I personally would say that a lot of my colleagues and myself would very much welcome a mixed approach as you go along. You don't want to full on back to where we were because you're struggling for time as you're going along. But not at the same time, you don't want everything just to be online because you want to have that interaction, you want to have the discussion and all that, which sometimes online platforms don't quite lend.
Thank you, Partha, for your time today. As always, it's insightful and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Pleasure.